Hey everybody, welcome. Thanks for joining me. Let me grab my stuff here, turn down my audio on my phone, and I am super excited to be checking out the new MX Master 4 mouse from Logitech. So this came in the mail today. Thank you to the Logitech Luminaries program. This is available to MVPs and I believe Microsoft employees. So we're going to unbox this new Logi mouse. I've got my MX35 here. So this is the mouse that I use with the options software today. And I believe this mouse is going to look somewhat similar to that form factor. However, this is one of the first accessories that supports the new Windows haptics. So I've got a USB-C dongle for Bluetooth connectivity. And I've got my mouse here. Gonna see if I can get in here and pull it out of the box. Nice. Okay. And then I believe I read in the description that the mouse should charge within like a minute if it's not already got enough of a charge. So we'll pull it out of this nice little folder. We'll check out the mouse. So Bluetooth, the Logi Bolt connector, the on button, the Bluetooth instructions, as well as the support for the Logitech Options Plus software. So we pull off the sticker on the bottom, flip the mouse on, and I'm already getting some haptic feedback, which is one of the new things that the mouse has is haptic feedback in Windows. And so I had to play around with Windows a little bit to get all of this stuff working. Here's a quick data sheet on the MX Master 4 for business. So the mouse has plenty of buttons, including a button here on the side. I'm getting the haptic. I felt it here first, then a right and a left mouse button, a scroll wheel that I can do some things with. And then I also have some horizontal scrolling capabilities right here under my thumb and some other buttons here on the side. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and take a look at some of the haptic experiences in Windows. And I'm going to share my screen, show where I set these up in Windows 11, and then we'll get started here. Okay, so the first place that I would recognize this haptic feedback is if I have a PowerPoint window and I pull it up to the dock here, I should get haptic feedback when I'm snapping the locations, and I'm not feeling it just yet. I believe that might be because I have to configure it in Logitech Options Plus. So let's pop over to Options Plus. Configuring both of my mice now. So I've got the 30, so I'm getting settings here. So we've got the task views and the options, so we can push the button to open the actions ring. I'm getting that on the screen. You'll see that in the lower right and now right in the middle. And then the haptic feedback, here's where I can set it to high intensity, and I'm getting that right on that pad to the where my thumb is sitting. And then open the action ring. Okay. So all actions, haptic feedback. is only working in some applications. And let's see if getting it now in. Okay, I don't feel it just yet there. Let me see if it's in PowerPoint. That's another place that I noticed the haptic feedback with my Surface Pen. So the place that I was noticing it most regularly was when PowerPoint was docking certain items. And I'm not feeling it there. So I feel like there's something I'm missing in the Logi Options Plus software. Let's take a look one more time here. I'm definitely getting the haptic feedback when I go in here and when I set up the mouse in the first place. So I feel like it's just a setting that I need. Haptic feedback is on, intensity, battery saving mode is off. Click below to configure haptic feedback. So app plugins. Let's see if there's a install I have to do for anything here. Doesn't look like there's plugins just yet. Actions, rings, smart actions, gesture, switch screens. Okay, so I see that haptic feedback is on. And then let's see if we have anything else here. The other place that I saw that I should be seeing the haptic feedback in Windows is under settings. So if we go to settings, Bluetooth and devices, and we go down to my mouse category, we can see if haptic feedback is in this list. So I don't see it just yet. That might actually be the problem because when I searched for haptic in Windows 11, what I found was pen haptic signals with a turn on for haptic signals. So this is the first place in Windows 11 that I was able to confirm that haptic response is working. So if I take my pen and I move the window around, my pen is giving me haptic feedback as I snap to the left, snap to the right third, or the 2/3 to the left, or half and half. I'm getting all that haptic feedback here. So I know what it feels like. It's also not in my Windows 11 settings for my my trackpad either. So it could be a Windows 11 update that I need. It could be something else that is needing configured, but I can feel the haptic feedback in that thumb pad within the MX4. And then the other thing that I've got going on here is I am in the Windows Insiders program, so I'm looking at features before they are regularly available to everyone. And within that experimental, there's feature flags. I went through this list and I looked for anything that might have haptic in the title. And the only thing that I think I set up was touchpad enhancements. So I did enable those, but they talk about automatic scrolling, scroll and zoom, speed. They don't really talk about Windows haptics there just yet. So the places that I've noticed the haptic feedback, and the place that I've noticed it first is with my Surface Pen, is if I take something like this PowerPoint slide and I go to my draw menu here, I'd have to enable editing first. See if I can get it to, if not, I'll just go to my other presentation, draw menu, and I'll move something around here. And then what I'm getting here is as I snap to the grid in PowerPoint using my pen, I'm feeling the haptic feedback from the pen. I'm assuming that will be the same experience I get with the MX4. I'm going to try the little dongle connection here just to see if that gives me a different experience. So I'm going to plug the Logi bolt in and believe then I'll be connected by the bolt connection. We'll see if I need to change anything in here. Play, pause, new note. Well, I can tell you that I am getting the haptic feedback from um, this software. So as I'm hovering over these different items, I'm getting the haptic feedback from the MX4. So I know it's working. I'm just not experiencing it in applications just yet. This software is available. Oh, here's the list. Hey, look at that. This is what I was looking for earlier to see if I can just set it up for PowerPoint. And since I can configure it for PowerPoint, let's see if we're getting that now. Or if I have to restart PowerPoint, let's see if that might be part of the experience, is restarting the application after you configure it. We went in here, went into our apps. For settings, I think it was. Went Copilot, lock workstation, Logi options, Windows screenshot, emoji, keyboard, Windows Explorer, haptic feedback. Is it out here that I added the apps? AI prompt, actions ring, application settings. These are just for the applications themselves, I believe. There's an update receiver option. Logged in, settings. Okay, so we're going to try it one more time here. Launch PowerPoint and see if I'm getting the Logitech feedback here from in PowerPoint. I'm not feeling it in PowerPoint. Let's see if we feel it in Windows yet. Still not feeling it in Windows. So somewhere you probably noticed that I saw the list of applications for my device, and maybe this was under the Bolt receiver. Let's see if the update for the receiver is available. In the process of starting, so I can start the update after that. Scroll wheel presses. There's the PowerPoint icon in the upper right. So I wonder if it's just the software is still loading some features here. Because now I see PowerPoint up here. And I can add apps. So accessibilities, calculator. I wonder if for PowerPoint, if I have other options to configure here. Let's add Edge too. Device configured success. You can now customize the point, scroll, and press settings for the added application. If I go to the button press sensitivity, I could say light button press for the thumb area, the thumb wheels, speeds, and focus. uninstall and install plugins. No haptic plugins were found. Let's see if haptic is one of the categories here. Haptic pointer plugin. Looks like it works on Windows. Tactile hover, accessibility, rhythmic alarms. Let's go ahead and install this. Because this might be what I'm looking for as a haptic feature. So I'm definitely feeling it from the Options Plus software itself. And I just want to see if I can feel it in the operating system itself here. So finalize, you might have to follow instructions on the right panel. There we go, play pause and the different things that it can do, controls, frac timer and timer, each half hour or hour, fraction timer, start a 1 minute timer. And then we can just see if we're getting any of the haptic feedback there. Now that we've set that up. Still not feeling in the OS just yet, but I know what it's going to feel like as soon as I get it working. I'm updating this presentation from 2022. Used to be called Toys. Yammer is now Engage, Viva Engage. So Toys is going to become the Toes presentation. And I'll have to figure out some creative use of that acronym, right? Because Toes isn't really a common acronym. I wonder if play does anything in here. Doesn't look like it does. It says play pause, but it doesn't go into PowerPoint presentation mode just yet. But that's what I would assume it does. So this, folks, is a quick rundown on the Logi MX4 mouse. We've got the haptic pointer software. It's going to warn me in a minute, it looks like, when I'm using the plugin. I've got the Logi Option Plus software installed. This is giving me information about the buttons, and I can add applications. I've added a couple applications already. And those applications have different uses that they have set up. As I set up those different uses, there I'm getting my MX4 and getting the ability to go back and forth in my presentation by scrolling. So scroll back, scroll forward to the MX Master 4 from Logitech. This comes with the Logi Bolt. The Logi Bolt came with a Type-C connection. It also uses Bluetooth. It's got great tracking. I'm using it on basically a marble surface right now, and it's working really, really well. And the haptics feedback in the upper right is probably the feature I'm most excited about playing around with. So let's see if I can configure the button for, oh, what do they call it? They call it Spotlight. Let's see if the Spotlight feature is still here in the list. Spotlight effects. There we go. So the highlight is now on. And when I go into presentation, oh, it looks like I have to restart PowerPoint here. Try that. open the same presentation, go to slideshow. If we're gonna have the alignment stuff here. And we're gonna press down on the wheel to see if we're getting the spotlight effects. There we go. So there I'm getting a spotlight effect, and I can just move around to point out the haptics feedback, which is what I'm looking at in the Logi MX Master 4 for business. We've got the actions ring. It looks like I set up the spotlight feature in the other options for the button. And then we also have the fast charging with USB-C. I get 1 minute for 3 hours of use, and a full charge lasts 70 days, and we get 2x of the connectivity with a Type-C adapter. I believe the Type-C adapter also came with like a little Type-A accessory. I know I've gotten that with a couple of the Logi devices. And then I've got the ability to, there I'm getting a feedback, but I've got the window open. So the feedback that I'm waiting for is the same thing that I'm getting from the pen. And that's from both Windows, PowerPoint at this point, and probably other applications as well. Microsoft is working diligently on the haptic feedback. So the haptic feedback at this point for the Logi MX4 for business is working in their software. When I hit the pad to the right, and then as I hover around this circle, I'm getting the haptic feedback. However, in Logi Options Plus, I believe this is where I'm going to need to wait for maybe an update. I might have to reboot Windows 11. That's sometimes an issue. I'm also on this computer using a couple other things. You'll notice, I haven't called your attention to it, but you'll notice that my start menu is to the far left. So one of those features that's experimental is moving my taskbar around to different locations. I can move it to the top of the screen and have a drop from the top and switch between apps, etc. And I can also have the ability to move it to the right-hand side, which I don't personally use, but I can move it to the right. Create another slide there for the left. This is the one that I use all the time, especially on Surface, because on Surface, I can easily move my device that I'm using it vertically as opposed to horizontally, the normal orientation that I'm using for this PowerPoint and for this demo so far. But one of the reasons I like the left side is that if I rotate here, I'm not sure if it'll rotate in StreamYard. Let's just take a quick look. If it appears, it does look like it rotated successfully. My video, however, yeah, my video rotated too, it looks like. Pretty good. So this is the primary reason that I use it on my tablets, is when I'm using a tablet in portrait mode or a monitor in portrait mode. As a trainer, a lot of times I'll have like web content and I'll want the web content scrolling. This is Windows Recall that I'm opening on the computer. Let's get logged into Recall here. And Recall, as another example, if I've got it turned this way, I might want to use my timeline to go through these items. And if there was a lot of scrolling effects, I could get that scrolling with, a longer page. So if I go to, say, a browser and I log into maybe Viva Engage images, I just grabbed this today. Here I'm scrolling a vertical page, and it's much easier for me to see that content in the previews to go ahead and get maybe a centered stock image of the Viva Engage logo. Then I can right click and save image. But just having those items to the far left as opposed to the bottom gives me a lot more real estate to actually see what I'm configuring here. So if I go back to taskbar behaviors and I put it at the bottom, you'll notice that it switched to the bottom left and it switched to small icons. So I still have a little bit of room left, but I'm running out pretty quickly at the bottom. Whereas left, I've got a lot more screen real estate there to the left for the applications that I have open. That's the main reason that I use the taskbar in Windows 11 on different sides of the screen. And it was the primary reason that I had a couple of computers that were still dual boot between Windows 10 and Windows 11 was because of the taskbar behavior. So now that that's gone, I've just wiped clean my last few Windows 10 installations, and I'm running Windows 11, sometimes in multi-boot mode. I think I just set up this computer to do that as well, because one of the things I'll want to test is multiple versions of the Windows Insiders program. Doesn't look like I set this one up just yet, or if I did, I didn't set up the other partition. So what I can do there is I can go to computer management, and we can confirm if I divided this hard drive in half or not. And if I did, I probably just didn't, I didn't allocate the additional space. But essentially what you can do in Windows 11 is, even with your boot and system volume, I can shrink the volume while it's running the operating system, and I can basically carve up different partitions for different versions of the operating system. So in this case, I could have that bleeding edge Windows Insiders build, and then I could also dual boot between a generic vanilla Windows 11 image. So if I have any problems, I just reboot the computer, choose the other operating system. And in this case, they're both Windows 11. They're just different builds of Windows 11. So the query takes a little bit of time, but when it comes back, it'll say, hey, here's how much space I can reclaim. And I can basically carve this up into as many little partitions as I have space on the system. So I can reclaim about 30 gig, which 31 gig is about enough space to install the operating system. But it's much more comfortable at like 200 or so. The other thing about shrinking a volume is, once you've shrunk the volume, you can always extend the volume too if the space is contiguous next to the previous partition. So the other benefit of maybe reclaiming some of that 30 gig is it would give me the ability to, if I'm running low on disk space, to reclaim that disk space from within here. So that's my reminder that that's sometimes a helpful little tip for not running out of disk space when you're playing around with it. BitLocker is the other thing that I can turn on and off. So BitLocker is protecting the C drive. I believe when I boot into the other operating system, it'll not have access to the C drive because of that. So I'll go ahead and shrink that to show you what the shrink looks like. The shrink doesn't take too long, and it's happening while the operating system is running. This is something that you used to have to re-image a workstation and redefine the partition size and use typically third-party imaging software. I did a lot of that in my IT career, re-imaging systems, imaging systems, coming up with golden images, testing things as a trainer. We did a lot of deployments as part of class to get the systems up and running in the first place. So I've done a lot of that in the past. As soon as this comes back, I'll have a C drive. I'll have another partition here that's about 30 gigabytes, and then I'll have my 243 gig partition that's ready for another version of Windows 11 on it. And then I've got my 2 gig recovery partition and my EFI partition at the very beginning of the disk. So that's a bit about the partitioning in Windows 11. We've been looking at the MX4, MX Master 4 for business from Logitech. So when I hit that with my thumb, I get this cool circular option from the Logi Options software to do different things, to configure my software, to configure my buttons, my point control and press, my haptic feedback, which is the new feature that this has. I just installed some software, the haptic pointer. We've got the actions ring, smart actions, gestures, switch screen capabilities. So this is a cool one. Feedback when your cursor switches between two displays. I'll have to get a secondary display hooked up to it to play around with that. But that might be another one of the places that I would feel the actual haptics of the MX Master 4. Let me see if I can pop up to my workstation. Sorry about that, folks. My Surface decided to shut while I was playing around with it. Let's see if I can get my video to reorient here. There we go. Okay. So my video is reoriented. I'm going to go up, try a secondary monitor and see if we get that haptic feedback as we move between the main monitor and the secondary monitor. Let's go with a MVP inspired. Ow, that hurt. Hit my foot up here, folks. So we've got my MVP inspired background here. Got my MX Master. We're going to plug in another display. I'm going to use my old school IMG mouse pad here. We're going to see if when we get to the edge, if we feel the, hey, it works. There's my first experience with Windows and the MX Master. So here we go. MX Master 4 for business. We go into the settings ring, the options. And under the options, what I clicked on here was adding the when you displays. So I'm feeling that now. Let's see if any of the other haptics stuff has started working. Not just yet. Might be a reboot again. I mentioned that earlier. Might be just a reboot to get that working. Let's see if I can go into the actions ring and get up the settings here. Show action ring, task view, screen capture, spotlight effects. Lock workstation, new note, play, pause, Windows Explorer, emoji, Windows screenshot, Logi options. Then settings, haptic feedback. Right here, haptic feedback switch screens. So when I'm switching between my main screen and my secondary screen, and you can see the shared edge here is the top of my screen. So I have an ultra wide screen and a regular size screen that I'm sharing in StreamYard right now. Make sure you can see this here. Grab this up here, drag it up. It doesn't look like you're seeing it. Probably because I'm not sharing my full screen here. If I can share my screen again. Must have turned off maybe when my screen shut down. So there's the screen and the shared edge. When I go off that shared edge, I'm getting the Logi feedback. And if I share my extremely ultra wide monitor, you get a sense for what that feels like. So if I drag this window down to my other monitor, I'm feeling the haptic feedback as I move that window. And if I drag the Logi option stuff up here, you can see that that switch screens is when I'm feeling the haptic feedback right now. Smart actions, available templates, then haptic pointer. There's other plugins and haptic intensity are all options. So that is a quick whirlwind tour, folks. 40 minutes on the new Logi MX Master 4 or Master MX4. MX Master 4 mouse from Logi. Thank you, Logi. And I'll go ahead and post some snippets from StreamYard. And this is live on my YouTube, which is youtube.com/@ symbol DREY MSFT or Dre MSFT. And it's also on my LinkedIn account. So I hope you enjoyed this preview, and I'll see everybody soon.